Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And in a country called South Africa where you've got a gangster political party called the ANC in government, you have the upper echelons of power, like Ace Magashule, wandering around the country and claiming that they're above the law and basically saying that, you can't touch me. And now we have probably the most corrupt political leader in South Africa, Jacob Zuma, who was so on the take, it's quite extraordinary. He, through his counsel, appeared in the Pietermaritzburg High Court just yesterday. And I will read to you what the outcome is. In an impassioned speech in court on Monday morning in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg, former President Jacob Zuma's advocate, Muzi Sikhakhane, claimed the first question he had asked his client when he met him was, "Are you corrupt, Mr. Zuma?" Well, that's a bit stupid, isn't it? Of course he knows he's corrupt. He later argued whether Zuma was corrupt or not. He has been treated improperly due to alleged bias and political influence. However, he appeared to say that he personally does not consider Zuma corrupt. Well, it's his legal counsel. What do you expect him to do? Say, yeah, he's corrupt. Come and get him. Give me a break. I don't know who wrote this article, but Jesus. They should, get their heads on straight. He said this was a question he had pondered because as we meet in our coffee shops in our white leafy suburbs to talk about Mr. Zuma, to seek white validation and impress our friends, we have never for a moment paused to think of what do we know and what he did. Secondly, suppose we know that what he did, I was asking him these questions because I wanted to clear my conscience to represent him because I don't want to call him corrupt until I know. Suppose we know that he may have done what we suspect he did. The question is, does he get stripped of human dignity? Is there a reason to deal with him in a particular way because he is Mr. Zuma? Is Mr. Zuma different from my son, who may be accused of sexual assault or rape tonight, and I'll look for a lawyer to represent him, and yours? Must he be dealt with less humanity? Sikhakhane pleaded with the court that Zuma had no other place to tell the story, and that the court's judges need to play their role of being custodians of the Constitution without any regard to political whims. He mentioned cases that would be relevant to Zuma's application for a stay of prosecution and acknowledged it was a very difficult remedy. A stay of prosecution. Isn't that nice? Now, who else in the lower echelons of the bureaucracy would get a stay of prosecution when they'd looted billions of rands out of the public purse? The judicial system in South Africa is completely cactus. But we'll see what happens here. Maybe we get a judge who's got a little tiny bit of credibility who'll do the right thing. But let's continue with the story. He mentioned cases that would be relevant to Zuma's application for a stay of prosecution and acknowledged that it would be a very difficult remedy. But he went on to say, but let me tell you that actually underpins a philosophy that we think the National Prosecuting Authority, or NPA, subscribes to in the manner in which they have dealt with Mr. Zuma. I call it the mob justice. It's driven and inspired by something all of us in this room have, to varying degrees. It's bias. Oh, talk about a red herring. And my lord and ladies, there are two forms of blindness in society. One is physical blindness, people who can't see. The next one is the most serious blindness, so we all suffer from. We just don't realize because it's called bias. Sikakani said physical blind people could harm themselves but not others, while those blinded by prejudice were dangerous. The lawyer said he would take the court through some of the discussions from so-called spy tapes, so we'd see how the people we give powers discuss judges, discuss other people, and discuss prosecution. And you can hear in the background, even Bonsai is shocked. He's saying, put him inside, put Zuma inside. People who are blinded by a bias do what they've been doing for the past 15 years. We think you are guilty. We will do with you what we like. That's what they do. Historically, what else do biased blind people do? People who intellectually and psychologically cannot see. They do not ask the question, what do I know about the person I'm lynching? And you know what? Talking about lynching, it happens every day in the townships. People get lynched, they get murdered, some of them get necklaced. It's absolutely disgusting what goes on in these black African townships. It's absolutely horrifying. He alleged that people blinded by discrimination through history had targeted certain groups simply because they are black and they are women, and they have killed them. They have sent them to the gas chambers because they are prejudiced against them. Gas chambers? I didn't know they had gas chambers in South Africa. But anyway, who cares if things are a little bit exaggerated? He told the story of how Benito Mussolini's body had been despoiled after his death, which as a society one should not do, or humans would be no different to organisms that live in the jungle. Oh my God. This is a black African talking about that. Look at how the whites are being tortured. They're being raped. They're being... The things that these blacks are doing to them is subhuman. It's savagery. And here's this guy trying to lecture the court about this whole issue. Yeah, I do agree with him, though, that it's subhuman what the Africans are doing, the black Africans are doing to the people like the white farmers. It is subhuman. It is quite extraordinary. Sikakani took issue with the criticism that Zuma had adopted a Stalingrad approach to avoid going to trial and delay it indefinitely, saying the MPA chief was to blame. I'm going to read to you in the spy tapes a discussion between a prosecutor and an outsider seeking to trap Mr. Zuma, so that they'll know he'll go to court, so that the thing could be delayed. I'm going to tell you in the spy tapes, I'm going to read them verbatim, of people are calling our judges effing Indians, calling a judge that Indian guy, referring to judges in the most derogatory terms, because they believe they can do anything to a person they suspect. In his affidavit to court submitted before these arguments began, Zuma and his lawyers claimed that the lead prosecutor in the case, advocate Billy Dana, had a personal hatred for Zuma and may even been having withdrawal symptoms from apartheid. Do you notice how the apartheid word is brought into the equation? Isn't that cute? It's kind of overdone though, you know, they really cooked that one to death. But they still try, don't they? Zuma implied that Dana was two-faced and had an aversion to the truth, effectively labelling him a liar, which Dana later responded was scandalous and vexatious and untrue and unwarranted. And you can hear that Bonsai in the background is getting quite excited because he can't stand Zuma. And I don't think there are many people who follow my channel who do have any time for Zuma, quite honestly. Dana asked for more than a dozen such accusations and characterizations against him to be withdrawn before the High Court, and for Zuma to personally bear the cost of Dana's application. He has reportedly expressed concern that the state's case in the MPA was being prejudiced by Zuma and his legal team's personal attacks on him. Earlier this year, Zuma claimed in his affidavit that no one else in South Africa had supposedly suffered as much personal and political prejudice since the dawn of democracy in the country. He accused the NPA of mistreating and humiliating him. What planet does Zuma live on? He's one of the protected breed. You know, he's so caught up in this whole corruption thing with the ANC hierarchy. It's just absolutely disgusting. He and his lawyers repeated long-held claims that the arms deal investigation against him was politically manipulated and processes were abused, and that Zuma became a career obsession for some prosecutors, especially Downer. Zuma once again referred to the so-called spy tapes as evidence that his case had been politically manipulated. The evidence of the tapes led to charges being dropped prior to Zuma becoming president, but the courts later ruled that that should not have happened. The recordings revealed a discussion between former NPA boss Bulelani Nkoka and former Scorpions boss Leonard McCarthy discussing the timing of charging Zuma. In 2017, the appeals court confirmed a High Court decision that the NPA's head, Mkotori Mche, had erred in making the call to drop charges in 2009. Zuma's application for a permanent stay of prosecution for his corruption trial is being heard over 3 days from today. Did you get that? A permanent stay of prosecution for his corruption trial. Permanent stay means it'll never happen. The trial, which is yet to begin, is linked to the controversial 60 billion rand Defence Force arms deal concluded in 1999, which saw several multinational companies around the world providing technology and equipment. It is alleged that multinational arms company Thales paid bribes to Zuma via Sheikh in order to protect the company from a probe into the arms deal, in which Thales had secured a lucrative 2.6 billion rand contract to supply combat systems for the South African Navy. It is claimed that Thales paid Zuma, who was deputy president of the country at the time, R500,000 rand a year for political cover. Zuma and Thales have both asked the court to stop the prosecution. In one affidavit, Zuma said his prosecution had all the attributes of a case that should be stayed permanently. Above the law. This could only happen in South Africa. Bonsai, what are you up to down there? The delays have been extremely long. The pre-trial irregularities glaring. The prejudice to me is blatant. There are no victims or complainants, and the political interference in the prosecution passes as other circumstances or factors the court should take into account, said the affidavit. In the affidavit submitted by Thales, company lawyer Christine Gurria said the decision to reinstate the charges against the company was unlawful and that Thales' right to a fair trial had been violated. The company has cited the long delay as an overriding factor and that the employees involved in the events underpinning the charges are not available to provide the company with instructions to assist Thales in presenting its defense at trial. That's what they do. They just keep on waiting till the relevant parties are no longer available. And that way the case gets dropped. I have seen it not just happen in South Africa. Believe me, I've seen exactly the same thing happen here in Queensland, Australia. It's not what you know, it's who you know. But, you know, we're talking little bickies compared to what Zuma did. The company has cited the long delays as an overriding factor and that the employees involved in the events underpinning the charges are not available to provide the company with instructions. Zuma is accused number 1 and is facing 1 count of racketeering, 2 counts of corruption, 1 count of money laundering, and 12 counts of fraud for allegedly receiving bribe money from Thales via Sheikh. Thales is accused number 2 and is facing 1 count of racketeering, 2 counts of corruption, and 1 count of money laundering. The hearing continues. This is going to be very interesting to see how far this case goes, because You know, the ANC, as I've said so many times now, it's a mafia organization. It's not a government. The people at the top are all on the take. They're looting the coffers of every single government organization they can, and they're getting away with it. It is just so sad what they've done to South Africa. They've destroyed it. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Make sure you ring the bell. So there's a little line on each side so you get all the updates. And have a great day.